Hi, everyone. I am Allie Katz, the program coordinator at Kelly Writers House, and I'm very excited to be with you all virtually tonight. We have another amazing real arts program hosted by professor and editor and writer Anthony DeCurtis, and today he has with us Eric Bazillion from live from Stockholm. So I just want you all to know too that on Thursday, the 19th at 5 p.m., Anthony's hosting another program, A Conversation with David Brown, which you should all tune into. That will also be here on YouTube. And if you have any questions for Anthony or for Eric, please join us in the live chat, and we will bounce those back up here to Eric and Anthony. Without further ado, Anthony DeCurtis.
Allie, thank you so much. Allie, I regard as the spirit of the Kelly Writers House, and even remotely, or shall we say virtually or virtuously, I feel like she brings that element to our events. We only all wish that we could, we could be together with you in the same place, and hopefully we'll be able to do that again soon. I've wanted to have Eric come in. We've talked about it for a while. Eric, of course, a founding member of the Hooters and a Philadelphia native, I should say. I've taught two of his children. He's a Penn alum, so he's part of the community here. The Hooters, sold millions of records. And Eric distinguished himself, not merely as a successful member of that band, but as a songwriter, writing songs for them, but also writing songs for many other artists subsequently. The Hooters are still a going proposition. They tour primarily in Europe these days. Eric is also working on a solo album. And I should mention, one of the things, among the songs that are notable that Eric has written is One of Us, which was, of course, a massive hit for Joan Osborne, a very beautiful version. And we'll be discussing that. And Eric is going to walk us through what the experience of composing that song was like. And we'll hear some of it too. But for now, Eric has a new song, just came out. I think it's posted to YouTube now, but if not, certainly by tomorrow. Eric, as Ali mentioned, is in Stockholm, so the time is shifting beneath our feet. And speaking of things shifting, thank you all for joining us. I realize not much is going on this week, so Eric and I are both happy to provide you with some entertainment during a dull and boring time. But we appreciate your being here. And Eric, I think would like to now show his new video for a song appropriately called Heaven Ain't Gonna Save Us. So Eric, take it away, man. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Here we go.
What it is just the way that it's gonna be. The people they have spoken, and for now they're gonna know what they wanna know, see what they wanna see. Everybody's got so much to talk about. Yeah, yeah. Everybody's got so much to talk about. Yeah. Heaven ain't gonna save us tonight. There ain't a prayer been spoken gonna fix what's broken. Heaven ain't gonna save us tonight. We got some heavy weather, gotta stick together. Heaven ain't gonna save us, ain't gonna save us tonight. Tonight. We might have had a good thing. Everybody's got so much to talk about. Yeah, yeah. Everybody's got so much to talk about. Yeah, yeah. Heaven ain't gonna save us tonight. There ain't a prayer been spoken gonna fix what's broken. Heaven ain't gonna save us tonight. We got some heavy weather, gotta stick together. Heaven ain't gonna save us, ain't gonna save us tonight. Ooh, tonight. Temperatures are rising, the polar cap's melting and the whole world's burning up. Civilization's riding on a plane that's gotta fly through a sky that's got room for all of us. Everybody's got so much to talk about. Everybody's got so much to talk about. Heaven ain't gonna save us tonight. There ain't a prayer been spoken gonna fix what's broken. Heaven ain't gonna save us tonight. We got some heavy weather, gotta stick together. Heaven ain't gonna save us, ain't gonna save us tonight. Heaven ain't gonna save us, ain't gonna save us tonight. Yeah, tonight. Oh, tonight. Heaven ain't gonna save us.
There you go.
Thanks, Eric, and thanks for sharing that video and that song. Why don't you fill us in a little bit about it? I mean, there's obviously just both in terms of the lyrics and the imagery of the video, plenty going on. And why don't you just discuss the genesis of it?
Well, actually, I'll go backwards. The video was actually done by a young woman in Philadelphia named Haley Monson, who went to UArts, and I discovered her through a crazy chain of happenstance through an artist in Philadelphia who sent me a song, and then he sent me a video, and the video that he sent me was exactly what I wanted this one to be. So I contacted her, and she did it in 5 days.
Wow.
And so the genesis of the song, I wrote the song the day after the election in 2016. Had no intention to write a song like this, as we'll probably get to. I rarely have intention when I write songs. Songwriting for me is a process of discovery and therapy. But there was a young artist, songwriter named Matt Carey in Philadelphia, who I share a vocal coach with. And he was coming over, so we said, let's make a song. And this is what came out. The original version was a completely different musical setting. It was sort of a more modern, if you will, thing with synthesizers and beats, as the kids like to call them. And then I lived with that for a couple of weeks, and then I realized, this is supposed to be Revolution by the Beatles.
Very interesting.
So
Go ahead. No, I was going to say, I always hear a lot of the Beatles in your work. It seems like, you just have kind of absorbed so much of what they did and put it to your own uses. And, I mean, if that's an aspect, I know.
That's the reason I'm here. I mean, I was one of those boys who saw them on the Ed Sullivan Show in February 9th, 1964, and said, I'm going to do that. So,
well, tell us, when we were discussing when, you are actually doing this together, and we were talking about, we probably should call it something. And you suggested the title, My Life is a Song. and I loved, how poetic that sounded, and the rightness is, I mean, obviously you've been at this since you were a very young person, but I wonder if you could talk about what the meaning of that title is for you.
Well, initially it was sort of semi-sarcastic because it's, for the Lasse Hallström film, My Life as a Dog.
Uh-huh.
Liv som hund in Swedish. But it's really, my life is a song. It's a series of songs, and everyone's got their art. Whether it's visual art, whether it's medicine, whether it's coal mining, whether it's whatever it is, it's an art. If you live your life well, whatever you do, you will express in a way that's artful, I think. It's funny. I'll digress, but this is one of the best things I've ever seen was a graffiti on a dressing room wall in Germany where somebody wrote a Zen proverb: first the ecstasy, then the laundry. And to me, what that means is, anyone can love the ecstasy, but it takes a truly enlightened soul to love the laundry.
Mm-hmm. That's perfect, actually. I wonder if you could, describe your first kind of introduction to music. The first time, you remember hearing something that you liked, that you felt yourself sort of drawn to it, that you thought of it as something that you might do. Take us a little bit on that journey.
I was immersed in it from birth. My mother was a concert pianist. She went to Curtis before she went to Penn. So I remember some of my earliest memories are sitting next to her on the piano bench while she played Chopin and Beethoven. And then my uncle, my father's brother, played folk music, played guitar. So I learned a few chords from him when I was 8 or 9. Down in the valley. So I grew up around music, and my aunt, my mother's sister, also played guitar, so it was always around me. And before the Beatles on Ed Sullivan Day, which to me is sort of the big bang of everything.
Sure.
I had already performed on the Gene London show in Philadelphia. It was a local show. I did a Joan Baez song in Spanish. I learned how to sing El preso número 9, ya lo van a confesar.
Fantastic.
So I already had, I had enough skills so that when I saw the Beatles and I saw those four guys having more fun than anyone, and thought, I want to be him. No, I want to be him. No, I want to be all four of them. I had enough skill to actually start a band the next day, which is what I did.
And how did you do that? You just called up your friends, or?
Yeah, I mean, I watched it at my friend Bernie's house, and our friend Paul was there too. And Bernie didn't play anything, so we figured he'd play the drums. And Paul already played some guitar, although as it turned out, I wanted to play bass because I wanted to be Paul first. He was my first favorite Beatle, not my most favorite Beatle, because there is no most favorite Beatle. They were one organism. Yes. But I ended up playing guitar and Paul played bass, and we became the Limestones, which was sort of my take on the Quarrymen, which was John and Paul's first band together.
Oh, that's nice. One of the things that occurred to me, when we were sort of discussing doing this, I'm always struck, talking to people. I mean, God, how many musicians? The Beatles on Ed Sullivan was cataclysmic for me. I mean, that was, transformative, and for so many musicians, I think, going out there and doing it as a result of seeing that. But there really is a kind of step from seeing, those four guys and the girls are screaming and they're up there playing songs and that looks like fun, and to songwriting and that making, that's a much deeper level of comprehension of what that life is and what it involves and how you get to become one of those people who goes on that show and has all that fun. And I wonder, how did the songwriting thing evolve for you?
That took a while, actually. I was so young when that happened. I was 10. And I knew that they wrote the songs, but it didn't occur to me that the work that went into that, it just seemed like there was one of those mystical visitation things. So I really wanted to play guitar. That was sort of my first passion. I mean, from 10 to almost 13, all I did was play guitar. And to the point where I had to repeat ninth grade because all I did was play guitar. So I wrote a couple of songs here and there, but I was more just sort of into the mechanics of making the music. And it wasn't really until I got to Penn, my freshman year at Penn, I met Rob Hyman, my partner in the Hooters,
Yes.
who already had a band with David Kagan, who had also gone to Penn. And they, the bands I'd had before that were sort of, I'd had one significant band before that, which had a songwriter, rhythm guitarist, singer who had an amazing God-touched voice. And he was a great songwriter. And I wrote a few of the songs. Most of my writing contributions were the 15-minute guitar solos in the middle.
Right, sure.
The arrangements, we sort of invented prog rock. But it really wasn't until Tommy came out. And I remember Rolling Stone had an interview with Pete Townsend where he described the process of writing that album and having this grand vision and taking bits and pieces from songs he'd already written. Rael from Who Sell Out. There are a lot of earlier sources on that album that I really became fascinated with the process. And I guess I saw the Who at the Electric Factory the night Tommy was released.
Wow.
So I became fascinated with it, but it wasn't until I met Rob and David and saw how they worked. And they really had a method. They had a process. Rob was the music guy. Rob had chord changes and melodic ideas, and David was the lyricist, and they would sort of collaborate on the whole thing as it evolved. So I learned a lot from that, from seeing them. And then then they graduated. I graduated 3 years later, and they had gotten signed to Arista. Clive had signed them, and that was Baby Grand, and they brought me into the band and eventually into the songwriting process. So that was sort of my school for that.
One of the things that struck me, for all of this immersion in music, and also for having had to repeat the ninth grade, you got to Penn and majored in physics. Is that did I get that right? Is it physics? I knew it was. And having gone to Catholic school myself through high school, and then back in the 60s days, when got a swinging exemption from all requirements of any kind, I've taken like one science course in my whole life. So I'm struck, not to overdo it, but it isn't, it's not like you were majoring in music or even English or whatever else might contribute to in an obvious way to songwriting and musicianship. What was the physics about, and what sort of role does it play?
Okay, full disclosure, my plan B was medical school.
I see.
Jewish boy, Jewish grandmother. That was sort of what was expected of me, and I knew that wasn't going to be my future. But even still, you had to have a plan B. So I took a lot of science courses. Now, before rock and roll entered my life, I was going to be the first prepubescent on the moon. I was all over outer space, science, radio. I got a ham license when I was 9 years old. And I had built my own gear, my own transmitters, receivers, all of that. I had my soldering iron handy all the time. So I was already a bit of a science geek. I knew a lot of that stuff. So, in the midst of taking all these science courses, I figured I'd major in bio because that was supposedly the easiest of the science majors if you were pre-med. I discovered that I loved physics again. I'd sort of let go of it from the age of 10, but I really, it resonated with me, and I did well in it. And I remember one night in particular, I was in my friend's apartment in High Rise East. They lived downstairs from me in High Rise East, and I was doing an all-nighter, working on a final exam for I think it was general relativity, and I had this revelation where the process of understanding a concept in physics was the same as understanding a musical concept. I felt myself going into the same trance-like state of confusion and elation and frustration, and coming out the other end like, wow, I get it. Which was, the same thing that I'd experienced, figuring out Beatles songs from the records, taking the needle on my turntable and playing one note at a time on George's solo Until There Was You, so that I could play. So I realized it was the same process. It's creation. It's, it's all big mumbo jumbo spiritual stuff, but it really, I felt that for real. It was the same process, and it is still the same process. It's frustration and elation and revelation. First the ecstasy, then the laundry.
Yes, exactly. We were discussing that kind of, Zen figure. Eric brought it up as, first the ecstasy, then the laundry, that combination of, the most basic, aspects of your life, but also the most exquisite and, highly transcendent aspects, and the equal sort of significance of both somehow. I want to know, obviously you described before I led you along another path, being invited to join Baby Grand, had been signed to Arista. It was run by Clive Davis. Talk a little bit about, that's a big step. From being out and, playing gigs and all this other stuff. Obviously it's what you're going for, but there it is. What did it feel like?
I guess I appreciated how lucky I was at the time. Youth is wasted on the young. I was 21. But I felt like it was where I belonged. Working with Rob and David and Rick Chertoff, who was also a Penn alum, who was the producer who signed us. Clive Davis's early A&R hero, who found Mandy for Barry Manilow.
There you go.
So I knew I was with the A Team, and they really challenged me. They really pushed me. It was the first time I really had someone who kicked my ass, musically. I think Arista wasn't necessarily the best place for us at that time. I don't know if you've heard the Baby Grand music. It was challenging. It was sort of Steely Dan on steroids, but even one more step more oblique with the lyrics.
Yeah. Who was the primary lyricist? Were you all?
David, it was David. No, that was David. That was David Kagan. And I got them and I loved them. Listen, I thought Asia made sense. Steely Dan's Asia. But for whatever reasons, we were either 10 years too late or 10 years too early. Because when we emerged, the first album came out in '77, which we should have gotten paid by the note for.
Yes.
That's when Talking Heads, the whole minimalistic punk thing was happening. So that ship had sort of sailed already for that sort of music.
Well, not too long after that, you guys formed the Hooters, and suddenly, there's MTV, and there's, really big success, millions of records sold. You know, and that level of impact, affects a lot of people. The whole idea, I mean, success and failure are the two biggest tests of character in a way. I wonder, if you could describe, what that experience was like, what the impact was on you.
So the Baby Grand albums came out in 77, 78. 79, we started working on a third album, and we just realized that first we realized that it wasn't happening at Arista, that, for whatever reasons, it wasn't a fit with Clive and with the aesthetic that was being created there. And it was really enlightening to read the biography, because I didn't realize that he really wanted Arista to be a rock label. But we realized that wasn't happening, so we started sending him really bad demos so he would drop us, and then at some point it worked.
That's extraordinary. I mean, people say stuff like that all the time, and I never believe them. You really did?
Well, he did, but we'd already sent him the good demos, and he wasn't hearing that. So, and then Rob and I just sort of looked at each other and went, "Is this the future for us?" And I think we both sort of had a gut feeling that there was something else in front of us. So we decided to start something new, and we decided that we were going to be the singers. And neither of us knew if we could sing, and neither of us still knows if we can sing. But we sort of looked at each other and said, "Can you do it?" "I don't know. Can you?" "Well, let's try it together." And we decided to take a different a turn musically, and rather than try to impress everybody with the chord changes and how fast we could play. This was right around the time that the British ska thing was happening in the U.S. And Rob and I went to see Madness in Philadelphia. And that was sort of a Beatles on Ed Sullivan moment for us.
Wow.
And then, all those records, the Specials, Selector, the English Beat, which was, for me, was the best of all of them. We said, let's try doing that. And Rob had grown up with reggae. That was sort of as big a thing as the Beatles for him. In fact, he really turned me on to reggae early on. So we figured we're going to be the first American band to play ska and reggae. And the first song that we wrote for that configuration, before we were the Hooters, was All You Zombies. And we found our drummer, David Wasikinen, was in another band, and we decided to recruit the other guitar player and bass player from that band, and we became the Hooters. And where the name came from, full disclosure, it's not a body part. I had borrowed a melodica from another band that I'd been producing at the time to try on one of our demos, because Augustus Pablo, an iconic reggae artist, made his entire career playing melodica over reggae tracks. So I brought the melodica to our first demo session, and John Senior, yet another Penn alumnus, was engineering this session, and he said, "Give me a level on that Hooter." So the melodica became a Hooter. We needed a name for the band. We wanted it to be a plural noun rather than, Johnny Jump Over the whatever.
Yeah. Oh, I see.
Like the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, the Wailers, not the shoes, not the plates, not a household object. So we became the Hooters, of course.
And things kind of exploded. I mean, it, obviously you'd been at it for a while, and, you kind of, sort of built up some, I'm sure some sense of expectation, but also, you've been around a bit. It wasn't like, you were a teenager. But,
we were certainly not teen. We were old. In fact, at that point, I think I was 27. But this was going to be our last band. I do remember one of us saying that on one occasion. One thing about Baby Grand is we hadn't really been much of a live band. We put out the first album before we'd ever performed. So with the Hooters, we decided this was, 1980 was DIY. It was really a whole different approach to the music business. So we said, we're gonna go out and play live. So we started playing bars in Levittown, and we would play 3 sets or 4 sets a night, 5 or 6 nights a week. Levittown was to us what Hamburg was to the Beatles.
Wow.
Vernon's it was called, and we built an audience, and it happened fairly quickly. And it was a crazy audience because not only did we have the locals in Levittown, we would get the bikers, but then we had the dreadlock Rastas from West Philly coming up, and to see them dancing next to each other, I felt like Phil Oakes.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was a time.
Sustaining that, I mean, you guys had a couple of really big albums. Bands are bands, can you talk a little bit about, the experience of like holding all that together, when the sales and the money and, whatever else is going on, begin to come into the picture. That's a band of, it's not like a band backing one guy, there were people, it's great when, various people can write songs and do other things. It also can get tricky. How did it work out for the Hooters?
Well, it's sort of a benevolent oligarchy, really. Rob and I started the band, and then we found David. So the way I see it is when we got David, our drummer, we became a band. Rob and I were already the Hooters, but when we got David, it became the band, the Hooters. And then we had John Kuzma and Bobby Woods, our original guitar player and bass player, who left in '83, and then John Lilly joined, and he's been with us ever since. And we've had 3 bass players since then. Fran's only been with us since '87. But look, Rob and I keep the band together. I think if we weren't in the position we're in, the band would have broken up a long time ago. It's a loving, benevolent oligarchy.
And after that, obviously, sort of solo efforts and songwriting. Now, were you writing songs specifically for people? Were people just picking up on your songs? Like, how did that process work?
Well, during the Hooters time, 95% of the time we spent was on writing Hooter songs, because it took a long time. You'd get an initial burst of inspiration that would give you a chorus, and We Danced, which is our biggest hit in the US. And we end our sets with it in Germany, but they don't really know it. It's funny. We kept having bigger hits in smaller countries. But that song, we wrote the chorus. We had gone away to a geriatric resort in the Poconos on sort of a retreat for a couple of weeks, right after we got signed to write songs. And our last night there, we'd gone to see the lounge band, and on the walk back, we wrote the chorus, which was the first and possibly only time we ever wrote a song without an instrument in our hands. Usually, it's the music that propels the melodies, the lyrics. But this one, we had the chorus, and we got back to our rooms, and we did a demo, which is nothing like the record, but it took us almost a year to write the rest of the song. Although we wrote those verses probably in half an hour, 9 months later, after going through however many drafts. So inspiration, when it comes, is usually quick, but sometimes you really have to wait for it to strike again.
Well, one of the, an astonishingly successful and deeply moving song of, partly because I knew I'd be talking to you, I've had occasion to listen to it quite a bit lately, and it very much suits the time. Is One of Us, that was a big hit for Joan Osborne, and you worked on that album with her, and that song was a top 5 hit, and just seemed to be one of those songs that was everywhere. I wonder if you can kind of walk us through that tune a bit, the idea for it, and how it progressed and came to what it is.
Well, I mean, that was sort of the beginning of my life as a song, writing that song. There's a songwriter, a legendary songwriter named John Bettis. He's primarily a lyricist. He wrote a lot of songs for the Carpenters. He was best friends with Richard Carpenter, and then he wrote for Michael Jackson, "Human Nature," and "One Moment in Time" for Whitney Houston.
Oh yeah.
"Human Nature," he'd already been hugely successful before he wrote that. But he said to me, because Rob and I wrote with him, he actually wrote a Hooters song with him, and one thing he said to me was that his career as a songwriter started when he wrote "One Moment in Time."
And what did he mean by that exactly?
I didn't understand what he meant by that until after One of Us, and I realized that was the moment where I found my guy. That was when I really figured out who I was and had a little glimpse into that little spot, wherever it is, that gives me the thing that I can do. So there's sort of pre One of Us and post One of Us, and which isn't making little of the pre One of Us, because I still put All You Zombies and We Danced.
Sure.
But it was from One of Us was just the moment where I realized I can really do this. Partially because I wrote it alone. It totally came out of me fully formed, as I will explain to you. Now, I've told this story many times, and it really doesn't get old. So we met Joan Osborne in 93. She had played at a club in Philadelphia. Rob went to see her. She had sent some demos to Rick Chertoff, who had left Columbia, had started a new label. And Rick was going to sign her, and we got together with her and started working on some songs, sort of a songwriting laboratory, 4 people in a room, which when it works is amazing. And when it doesn't, it's like watching paint dry. Yeah. We hadn't gotten to the watching paint dry part yet. But so, in the middle of all this, Rob and I were touring with the Hooters on our fourth major label release. And during that time, I met a young woman on a flight to Stockholm, and we connected. And then I came back to Stockholm, and we really connected. And a few months later, I suggested that she move to Philadelphia so that we could avoid transatlantic dating. I was going to be there for 4 months making a Joan Osborne record. So she came over, and about a week later, I walked into our session at Rob's. We were working in Rob's garage at that point, and I picked up his guitar and I played a guitar riff. I call it my riff du jour, and sometimes it's great, sometimes it's garbage, but that day it was. Yeah, that's pretty good. So Rob said, "Oh, let me record that." So he pulled out his Walkman and hit record, and we forgot about it. The next day I came back in. I said, "Man, I know I came up with a really good guitar riff yesterday. I know you recorded it. Could you play it for me?" He couldn't find it.
Wow.
So, okay. Oh, great. Well, I guess that one wasn't meant to be. And then the end of the day, I think just as Sarah was coming to pick me up, he said, "Oh, I found it." He had labeled it a mandolin riff. So he played it for me. I started playing on guitar. I started playing it on piano. And then Sarah and I went home and we had dinner, watched The Making of Sergeant Pepper, that documentary, which was mostly George Martin in front of that four-channel console. And it ended at around midnight. And Sarah said, wow, 4-channel recording. What's that? And that's what I've got on the dining room table. That's why we're eating in the living room. It's my 4-track cassette recorder, my Porta Studio. Oh, record something for me, she said. So, okay, I've got this guitar riff, and I had a keyboard with a sampler in it. So I programmed a drum beat, and I made a little arrangement. I'll just arpeggiate those chords during the verse. Yeah, arpeggiate. And then I'll go to these. Then I'll play the riff for the chorus. Okay, I got it. And I programmed a little arrangement and recorded the guitar, an electric piano, programmed bass and drums to 2 tracks of the 4. And then I looked at her like, hey, who's your daddy now?
Right.
And she says, well, sing it. I went like, well, you don't just sing it. It's a process. You've got to write a chorus and then have a concept, and then you write the verses, and then you realize the verses don't go with the chorus, so then you change the chorus, and then 2 weeks later you realize that you ruined the whole thing and you start over, and it takes time. And by now it was probably 1 a.m, and Emma was asleep upstairs. My daughter was like 5 years old, and Sarah had fallen asleep on the sofa, and I heard a voice. I channeled Brad Roberts from the Crash Test Dummies. I heard him singing "If God Had a Name." So I put track 3 in record and sang, and the song basically just came out in one.
Really?
So, yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. It's pretty wacky.
Well, would you like to play it for us?
I know I can play the song like this, or I can play you my actual songwriting demo. I can walk you through this. Would you like that?
Both, either, whichever works.
Okay, let's see. So I got to go to share the screen. Where's my screen? Save. Here we go. She is. Hopefully you won't lose my voice when I do this. Let's see. I have a Pro Tools session. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so let me move that up here. So track 1 and track 2, I'm going to make them bigger now. This was these are the 2 tracks that I recorded. On the left side, the right side, you'll hear the guitar playing the riff that it came from, and then the everything else. So it was like this. And the little count off, the little thing wasn't even a computer, in the keyboard. Etc. Then sounds very much like the record that everyone knows.
Absolutely.
Okay, so then we come to the low vocal.
If God had a name, what would it be, and would you call it to his face? If you were faced with him in all his glory, what would you ask if you had just one question?
Oh, so an interesting thing here that I just noticed the last time I did this. I'll solo the vocal track, and you'll hear a little t at the end.
Question.
I originally sang just one question to ask him. And I realized that didn't fit, so I erased it. But since it was analog, I left a little bit there. I'll keep going. And then I added a high vocal to make it punch a little bit.
And yeah, God is great. Yeah, God is good. Yeah. What if God was one of us? just a slob like one of us, just a stranger on the bus, trying to make his way home. And yeah, if God had a face, what would it look like and would you want to see? If seeing meant that you would have to believe in things like heaven and in Jesus and the saints and all the prophets. And yeah, God is great. And yeah, God is good. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. What if God was one of us? Just a slob like one of us, just a stranger on the bus, trying to make his way home.
Oh, full disclosure. As I recall, I sang the verses in the first pass. Then I punched in the choruses and I was stuck for a last line. Just a stranger on the bus. Da, 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 that's enough. Da, 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 da. And Sarah, the girlfriend who's now my wife since 25 years, woke up and said, trying to get home. Trying to make his way home. Thank you.
Very nice.
So I'll continue.
Trying to make his way home. Just trying to make his way home. Just like a holy rolling stone, back up to heaven all alone. Nobody calling on the phone, except for the Pope maybe in Rome.
Now this part is not on the Joan Osborne version. This is the I Am the Walrus. Everybody's got one part. Probably better that we didn't leave it there.
What if God was one of us? Just a slob like one of us, just a stranger on the bus, trying to make his way home. Yeah, what if God was one of us? Yeah, just a sod like one of us, just a stranger on the bus, trying to make his way home. Just trying to make his way home. Just trying to make his way home. Just trying to make his way home.
And so on and so forth.
Wow. Well, thank you. It's incredible. like the song is really all there, often when you listen to demos, it's not, as
Yeah.
you all know. But I'm struck that you just kind of rattled those lyrics off. Is that,
Yeah, it just, it
was
was a,
that typical?
it had happened. I remember it happening a few times before that. When Rob and I would get on a roll, that would happen together sometimes. Or he or I would get on that roll when we were together. Document the other in their trance-like state. But it hadn't been happening a lot. And when that happened, it was sort of an epiphany for me. I realized, oh my God, there is this place that I can tap into. And a lot of good stuff happened after that.
Did you know what you had right away?
That night, by the time I went to bed, 2:30, I knew I had written something special. It was sort of like when Rob and I wrote All You Zombies. We knew that we had tapped into the absolute, but we thought it was going to be a throwaway in our sets. Little did we know it was going to be sort of our signature song. I knew it was special, but it wasn't until I went into our session with Joan the next day, and in the afternoon, we took a break from whatever song we were working on. I said, "Guys, I wrote this crazy song last night." So I gave Rob the cassette, and he played it. And Rick Chertoff, in his A&R genius, looked up and said, "Joan, do you think you could sing that?" Which it was not my intention. The farthest thing from my mind as being in the realm of possibility. And he didn't ask her if she would like to sing it, because she probably would have said, do you think you could sing that? And I think she said, "I can sing the phone book right out the lyrics." But whatever, we recorded it. I wrote out the lyrics and kind of coached her through the melodies, which are really simple, and we recorded it. And we all listened back, and I think we all knew that song and that voice we had touched the absolute.
There are a lot of, I don't want to, I hope you don't feel like I'm beating this to death or something, but like there's a lot of big ideas in the song. And I wonder, if those were ideas that were kind of rattling around in your brain for one reason or another, or,
Totally.
riffing or.
Totally. In fact, shortly after I wrote that song, I realized that song really encapsulated my worldview. That was my whole, and it's funny, the song's not about God. It's, if it's about anyone, it's about the poor schmuck on the bus trying to get home.
Mm-hmm.
But more than that, to me, it's about what happens if you witness something that completely blows your worldview out of the water. What if you were to, meet God, find incontrovertible proof of God?
And you have to believe.
Yeah, exactly. Meet an extraterrestrial. Find out that there really is life on Mars. Anything that just completely throws you off your axis. What happens then?
And also, it seems, in some way, I don't know, at least my listening to it is about, the sort of touch of divinity, like in everybody, that person on the bus and, God lonely up there in heaven, and, the element of, human and divine sort of intertwining in some way. But it's quite a moving song, and in a wonderful way, quite a moving song, and a fantastic hit record. It ticks off all those boxes. It's a lovely thing.
Yeah, no, we really got lucky with that. The stars aligned. My guitar playing, which is where I began and where I'll end. Rob played drums on that.
Wow.
Of all things, which was the first time he'd ever played drums on a recording, and he just nailed it. It was a magic take, and the sound of Joan's voice, and it all worked to make that record. And it's been recorded a lot of times by a lot of people in many different styles. Prince did it.
Yeah.
John Legend did it at the finals, the national finals for the.
The Penn alumni, Penn alumni community supporting each other. Fantastic. Well, tell us a little bit about what you're up to these days. You're working on another album, and you're kind of there. Have you kind of maintained a place in Stockholm over the years by virtue of marrying a Swedish woman? Or?
Well, we've spent every summer here since we met, so that's every summer since '94, and we'd spent a couple of full years here, to school year 2003 and 4, 11 and 12, and we decided it was time to do it again. It was supposed to be for a year. That was in 2017, and after 1 year, Maya, our freshman at Penn. Well, I guess sophomore now, although she's sitting it out until she can go in person again. She had her senior year left, and she was really comfortable in the school situation here. So we decided to stay another year, and now it's 3 years. I think I had hoped that by now we'd be more binational. We still have our house in the Philly area, rented out, and then this COVID thing happened, and so I've been here since March, and life is sort of on hold. Our tenants are staying until further notice, and the people we're renting from are in Australia till further notice. So we're here, and the Hooters were supposed to do our 40th anniversary tour this summer. We had a bunch of shows in Germany and Philly, and even other parts of the U.S. where we hadn't played in a very long time, and that got smoked or put off until next year at least. So I had this time, and I don't have a studio here, but it turns out that there's a big room in the basement in this building where we're living, and nobody's using it. And the neighbors all said, go ahead, set up. So I have my laptop. I have a little box here that I can plug a mic and a guitar into. And I started writing songs. And then I wrote another song, and I wrote another song. And I realized, oh, wow, maybe I'm making an album. I haven't made a solo album since 2002. It's mostly been the Hooters, and if not that, it's been developing other artists, young artists, or writing with whoever, wherever. But this was the first time I really had the opportunity to kind of like focus on, wow, okay, who's home here? Well, what have I got? What have I got to say? And the first few songs were kind of, wow, yeah, I can be this guy. I like this guy, and then they just kept on coming.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and then I found that there's sort of a story that's started writing itself even before COVID happened. Just sort of like, I have a song called "Where Home Is." I don't know where home is, and then at the end it turns into I know where home is. It's wherever I am. But this identity issues and locational issues.
Well, very apt, certainly. Are we, I don't know if we have any questions, from our viewership here, or, we're
no questions. Wow. Is that because no one's listening? Just because we're talking too much?
I don't know, but it was a fantastic conversation. And, we've kind of, come up on the hour. So I wonder maybe if you would you mind playing, maybe All You Zombies or another?
I think All You Zombies is a good one. That sort of bookends One of Us in a way. All You Zombies had biblical. Hey, Andrea. It had the Moses and Noah in it, and there were other biblically themed songs between that and One of Us, and there have been many since. That sort of is as much as I try to avoid it or deny it, I keep going back there, and it's kind of like that story about I won't digress, but yeah.
Go ahead, digress.
Okay, well, so there's a story about this man. He's a righteous man. He's a pious man, and one night he's alone in his house, and he hears he's listening to the radio, and alert, everyone, the floods are coming, vacate your house. And he says, oh, I'm a righteous man, I'm a pious man, God will take care of me. So of course the flood comes, the water comes, water rises up, he's upstairs in the bedroom. He sees a rowboat. Hey, I'm here to save you, jump out into the boat. No, I'm a good man, I'm a righteous man, I'm a pious man, God will take care of me. The rowboat goes away. Water rises even higher. He's up on the roof. A helicopter comes, lowers down a rope. We are here to save you. Grab the rope. No, I'm a good man. I'm a pious man. God will take care of me. So he dies, goes to heaven, gets an audience with God. He says, I was a good man. I was a pious man. I was a righteous man. What happened? Hey, I sent you a radio broadcast. I sent you a rowboat. I sent you a helicopter. What else did you want?
Exactly. That's a great story.
So I guess I'm that guy. But All You Zombies was I call it the first Hooter song, and it really was an amazing example of the synergy between two minds, because Rob and I have such a clear visual picture of it. We were in our warehouse space in Manayunk, and he was standing up and I was standing up. He was playing his keyboard and I was playing my guitar, and he started singing. What key am I in? All you people, show your faces. And I went, all you people in the street. And then he went, all you sitting in high places. And then we said, we'll get the next one later. And by the end of that day, we had written a chorus. And I heard a voice in my head, very similar to the Brad Roberts low voice. I heard someone going, Holy Moses met the Pharaoh. And he said, yeah, he tried to set him straight. And the first verse was written. And by the end of the day, we had a song. We had everything except for the word zombies. We came back the next day. He said, we need a better word than all you people. And I said, yeah, you're right. And he said zombies. And I said, yeah, you're right. And that was all cylinders firing. It's funny because I knew that there was a familiarity to All You Zombies, but I'd forgotten that there was a Robert Heinlein story called All You Zombies that I had read when I was 12 years old. And it took a couple of years before I remembered that, and it was out of print. It wasn't until we were in Portland, Oregon, that I found a copy of the book and gave it to him.
Wow, fantastic.
So anyway, we originally wrote it as a reggae song. It was sort of the throwaway at the beginning of our shows. We would play it at the beginning of the first set and before anyone was really interested in dancing. But then a year later, we did a live broadcast on WMMR. We did the song and they started playing it in heavy rotation. We released that as a single. We put that on our first indie EP. That got heavy rotation, and we retooled it for Nervous Night. Rick Chertoff pushed us to make an epic out of it. And our mantra was, what would Roger Waters do?
Perfect.
And it became, the 6-minute thing that it is. And again, it never occurred to us that it would be a single. But when we went to master the album with George Marino, the legendary George Marino, and he asked us, what's the single? And Rick Chertoff said, well, what do you think it should be? And he said, well, obviously, All You Zombies is the most commercial. So, okay. And we took his advice, and it was the first single. Barely charted, but it's sort of the song that we're known for. It was number one in Australia. Go figure.
No, that's very identified with the Hooters. Absolutely.
Yep. So, but when I do it without the Hooters, I do it differently because it's more fun for me to do it like this. So it's something like this. Forget which key I'm in. Okay. spoke to Noah, they all laughed at him instead. Working on his ark, working all by himself. Only Noah saw it coming. 40 days and 40 nights. Took his sons and daughters with him. They were the Israelites. They were the Israelites. All you zombies, hide your faces. All you people in the street. All you sitting in high places. All you zombies, hide your faces. 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 Holy Father, what's the matter? Where have all your children gone? Sitting in the dark, living all by themselves. You don't have to hide anymore, hide anymore, hide anymore, no. All you zombies, show your faces. All you people in the street. All you sitting in high places. All you zombies, show your faces, yeah. All you zombies, show your faces. I know you're out there. All you people in the street. Let's see you. All you sitting in high places. All you zombies, show your faces. 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 All you zombies, show your faces.
Fantastic.
Thanks.
That was terrific. Well, Eric, thank you so much, man. You know, I know it's late there in Stockholm, but you obviously are still maintaining a high degree of energy. That was a sensational version of that song.
Thanks. And for everyone watching, go out and pre-save. It's not going live. The YouTube video is live, but the Spotify, Apple Music, whatever your poison of choice is, the more pre-saves I can get, for some reason, that feeds the algorithm.
Fantastic. So please check that out.
Check it out on repeat.
Do what you need to do.
Heaven Ain't Gonna Save Us by Eric Bazillion. Yay.
Take it away. Oh, Eric, thank you again so much. And
It's great.
for the rest of the night, this was really a pleasure. In person next time, man.
Yep, I hope so.
Take care now.
Bye, everybody.